It's time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join News Director Paul David as he talks with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives in Yavapai County. And now, here's today's Countywide.
Welcome to Countywide. I'm Paul David. As always, it is great to have you in studio today. Pete Gordon is in studio with the Prescott National Forest. How you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you.
We had him come in to talk about the Cellar Fire. Actually, originally coming in just to give us an update on how things were going in the Prescott National Forest, but then we had the Cellar Fire happen, so I thought, well, this is perfect timing to have Pete come in because we're kind of winding down the tail end of that fire there. So I think as of this morning, it was 58% contained at, what was it, how many acres? 1,007? 7,000?
Just a little over 7,000 acres.
7,512, something like that, yeah. So what happened with the Cellar Fire? Because I told you that I came in on a Monday and the lightning strike had happened on a Sunday.
Correct.
It was 36 acres and it was like, we're going to use this for a management fire. And then Wednesday morning I came in and Tuesday afternoon things really changed on that fire. It got super hot. We had 30-mile-an-hour wind gusts Tuesday and Wednesday, and it just went from being a 36-acre fire to, well, it was guesstimated like 7,000 when I came in Wednesday morning, and YCSO was blocking roads, and I thought, what happened here? So tell us what happened.
Well, I'd say the key word is alignment is what happened. We talked a lot about that internally and as we briefed the team that came in to help us. And as it sounds, or three factors really came into play on Tuesday. The hot temperatures, the heat, the terrain ahead of the fire, northeast aligned drainages with heavy fuel in it, and of course slope. And when those three things align with chaparral, they tend to move rather quickly. We certainly were aware of the hot temperatures forecasted for a couple of days when we got the lightning fire on Sunday. But it played out a little bit differently than forecast. The winds were a little stronger. Winds came from a slightly different direction, and that's not out of the normal. We get general forecasts. They do their best to try to give us site-specific forecasts. But when you're dealing with the terrain, the desert heat, moving air up against a mountain range, things can be a little different than forecasted. So that was a little bit of a factor, was the strength and the direction of the winds that day. And then, of course, the dry weather kind of persisted a little longer than forecasted as well. We were under the impression, as I think the Weather Service was, that we might see a return of that monsoon by mid to end week last week, and it took a little while longer to get here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it did. It until this week it got here. Yeah, July has been an unusual July for Arizona, monsoon-wise. Yeah.
For sure.
They did predict, I had Weather Service in here, and they said that July was going to be drier than normal because the monsoon just wasn't going to shape up. That system that brought us all that great moisture all winter long and through the spring is still out there. It is still out there today, and that's why the monsoon is still not doing very well. And then the lovely El Nino out in the Pacific is still there too. So it's, all those combinations are kind of screwing us up on the monsoon this year. Monsoon's been pretty good this week. All right, so Cellar Fire really took off. That's chaparral, that stuff. I think you were in here last time. The Goodwin Fire was a chaparral type fire too, where it's just explosive. And I think you talked about it back then, that as it grows and gets older and older and older, it's bigger and bigger and bigger, and it gets almost explosive. Am I right about saying it's explosive, where it literally goes boom and shoots fire everywhere, I want to say?
Yeah, not quite.
Not quite that?
Yeah, not quite true.
Too dramatic.
Not dramatic.
Okay.
But certainly, if you think, or as we talk in the profession of all the different types of vegetation that can burn and how they burn differently, chaparral fires can be some of the more aggressive behaving fires. And that is because of many factors. Number one, that they become dry. They've gone through their growing period and they're no longer taking moisture out of the soil by the time the summer temps hit. They also, if untreated or hasn't seen fire in a long time, like the area of the Goodwin Fire and some areas of the Cellar Fire, it becomes very decadent. A lot of the material, as the plants grow and age, interior branches tend to die off but remain standing among the green and new growth. And as that new growth goes dormant on a regular cycle, becomes dry, now you've got a mix of dry vegetation that's newer, intermixed with the standing dead material, so it becomes very volatile. It's thick. It's not easy to work in for firefighters literally on the ground. It's somewhat challenging even with aircraft if it's real old and decadent chaparral. So it moves rapidly. That also has to do with some of the chemical mixes within the plants themselves. The turbinella oak and some of the other species have oils and other things in the leaves that make it a little more volatile.
Mm-hmm. How tall is that chaparral out there? Is it as tall as you, or are we talking about 3 feet, 4 feet? I mean,
certainly in the area where
I heard it gets big.
For sure.
Yeah.
The Cellar Fire itself moved into some chaparral that was probably in the range of 40 to 50 years old since the fire history, and easily 8 to 15 feet tall in some of that stuff. We have other areas on the forest that's easily 12 feet and taller. But a lot of the places that either have had a wildfire or we've managed to treat, I would say 20, 25 years and younger, it's anywhere from, in a couple years, regrowth, resprouting, it can be 18 to 24 inches tall, 20 years old, 6 to 8 feet tall. But a lot less dead material. It's around the 25-year mark we start to see the volatility with the old decadent stuff still standing.
Okay. Now, when we have a fire like the Cellar Fire come in, and it does explode in growth like that, at what point in time does the Prescott National Forest or any Forest Service say, okay, it's time to bring in a Type 1 team? And why do we bring in a Type 1 team?
There are a lot of factors that go into that, but it can simply be categorized as complexity. The more complex the situation becomes, that will drive the decision to bring in a team adept at higher complexity incidents. Now, to break that down, in simplest terms, one of the first factors that we will look at is the operational complexity. Is it going to take a lot of people and multiple different tactics and on larger scale strategies to contain or corral this fire? We also have to consider the logistics complexity. Is it a lot of people that will need water and food support and transportation? The more people or the more spread out, this fire particularly, we knew we'd have both. We'd need a lot of people to help, and it was difficult to access on the west and east side of the Bradshaw Mountains. No easy way to get directly across the mountain. So we had a logistics complexity. And then we look at things like the aviation, the things we anticipate aviation needs, the planning needs, the making of maps, making of incident plans every morning. All of those things factor into the complexity. And then overlying all of that, we look at the complexity or the issues associated with what are the values at risk. Are we in the middle of nowhere with natural resources at risk? Are we adjacent to communities? Are we in the time of year or the conditions where we might be a long way away, but the fire might move quickly towards values at risk, whether that's infrastructure or communities? So all of those things are factors, that we analyze and work through a little bit of process, a little bit of dialogue in a very hurried fashion, and it triggers a decision on Type 1, Type 2, or even a Type 3 management organization.
Okay. All right. We're going to take our first break. Prescott National Forest Fire Staff Officer Pete Gordon in studio today. Stick around. Countywide's going to be back in just a couple minutes.
Start your journey toward better health with Ageless Touches Massage Therapy. Licensed massage therapist Richard Stevens uses the latest and best equipment to relieve scar tissue, electronic smog, and tinnitus. Ageless Touches does everything they can to work your issues down to the bone. Improve your path to better health with Ageless Touches Massage.
Award-winning Soundbites Grill is an entertainment restaurant located in Uptown Sedona at the Hyatt Pinion Point Resort. Open for lunch and dinner, featuring fresh fish, all-natural hand-cut beef, even a full vegan menu. Family-friendly, open 11:30 to 9, late dining on Friday and Saturday. Soundbites Grill has some of the best views of the Sedona Red Rocks. Offers world-class entertainment, food, fun, and music.
Two things we can count on every year.
A new set of tax rules and great weather here in northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Welcome back to County-Wide. We're sitting down with Prescott National Forest Fire Staff Officer Pete Gordon today talking about the Cellar Fire. We just got through, the Type 1 team was called in. They were there. Now they're turning the fire back over to the Prescott National Forest.
Correct.
So what is Pete Gordon's plan for the rest of the Cellar Fires? I think we said 58% contained.
Yeah, so at this point, we've got a very small organization. We have a Type 4 incident commander, a couple of fire engines, and a few other miscellaneous local resources assigned. And the goal really is to patrol and monitor the fire. We still have aircraft assigned, and we will monitor this periodically from the air just to make sure that we're not missing something down in one of the drainages. So the good news is it's part of what factored into the decision to reduce the complexity and turn it back to the forest is we haven't seen growth of any significance on that fire since last Thursday, so about a week now. And I want to say it's probably 3 or 4 days since there's been any sign of smoke in the drainages or anywhere along the perimeter or interior for that matter. And that's not uncommon for chaparral fires. Once they burn, there's very little left that's going to hold heat, certainly in the drainage bottoms with larger trees. That's why we're watching this thing continuously until it gets a lot more rain. But I'd say a very little threat left, and there's very little complexity left. And because of where it is and the work that's been done, there won't be boots on the ground in probably 75% of the fire. But where they can access, they're going to check it out. They'll get on high points and check it out and be watching it with folks nearby.
Okay, and then it was going to be used as a management fire initially. How much area did you want to treat with the fire? I know this is not the way we wanted to do it,
Sure.
but was that accomplished anyways?
I think when it's all said and done, certainly the effects that the fire had on the ground is as it would have historically. It cleans the forest floor of old decadent debris and regenerates new growth. And that's how chaparral burns, and we know it has historically burned that way, that it takes just about everything off the surface, but within a growing season you'll see them resprout. All of those species are resprouters. So I think at the end of the day, when we look back and do some analysis, it'll show that fire did what fire should do on the landscape. But the whole idea of a managed fire, as we talked a little bit ahead of the show, the idea of managing a fire is something that it bothers me. We talk a lot about managing a fire that's a lightning fire, when in fact we manage all fires. And the primary thing that we look at, regardless of the ignition source or the objective on the ground, is firefighter safety and access and the probability of success in protecting values at risk. And it doesn't matter the outcome. And we get into this a little bit of a sticky place, and lessons learned for us is to do a better job talking about the outcomes when we've seen the outcomes. We try to tell the story ahead of time, and I think it confuses folks, and it doesn't paint the picture of what actually happens on the ground. I know you and I have talked in years past, this belief that we let it burn. There's no such thing. We have never let a fire burn. There's always some action going on or some sort of protection going on. Certainly there are places we might be less aggressive because it's either too dangerous or there's no values at risk, or the outcome that we expect might be beneficial. So there was certainly talk about this fire, and we tried to tell that story right away. I think on Sunday night or Monday morning, we tried to tell that story that when this is said and done, it might have benefit on the ground, and it's what we would label a managed fire. And I think that's a mistake on our part of how we tried to label it. But I would love folks to understand that the outcome, nothing we did changed the outcome of this fire and how it aligned in the drainage and took off on us. That the firefighters that day went to where they could effectively go without hurting themselves and have the highest probability of success, and that was a road system of about 3,000 acres around the big rocky hill at 108 degrees where they couldn't go. That was their plan all along, regardless of the effects it might have had on the ground.
Okay, I think it would be good if the Forest Service got into the before and after a little bit more.
Yep.
We were talking about that before the show too. I had Noel Fletcher in here several years ago after the Ducey fire,
Yep.
and it had been several months, 6 months to a year since the Ducey fire happened, right around the same time as the Yarnell Hill fire, and she came in with photos of what happened with the fire, and then she came in and the photos also had, well, this is how it looks now. After 6 months' time, we've got black bears in this pool of water, and look at the green grass around the water. And I think that's really interesting. Like, I live off Mountaineer Road, so I saw the Forest Service come in and clear out a bunch of trees. So I've seen the before and after, where the before was I could see into the forest maybe 50 yards, and I had no idea there was a hill there. They came in and cut all these trees down, and now I could see all the way through there and up onto the top of this hill. I thought, oh my gosh, I said, look at that, there's a hill up there. I had no idea there was a hill there.
Sure.
And so I think, some of the before and afters would be great. Like maybe a year from now, it'd be nice if somebody had pictures of the Cellar Fire area and then came back with an after. We could see exactly how things work and after. Something else we want to hit up too, and Pete brought this up, and I like it. There's two things I like in my news stories. Number one, how many acres are burned, because when I see that the acreage stays at like 1,700 acres, let's say it's 1,700 acres, when I see that for a few days, it's like, okay, these guys, gals, they got the handle on this thing. It's not done any more growing. And then I think when I report that the fire is 0% contained, 12% contained, 30% contained, it shows the public as well that these fires are, starting to. What constitutes containment on the forest?
It's a great question, and again, another piece of information that probably we haven't explained very well. The first thing that you mentioned, when you see 2, 3, 4 days in a row and the acreage is not increasing, or the rate at which is increased is dramatically reduced, that's a very good sign and an indicator of the success and type of actions being done tactically around a perimeter of a fire. That's an indication that we've stopped or curtailed or moved the progression of the perimeter. The percent containment is not necessarily a reflection of the amount of work done or the number of miles or yards that they've moved around a perimeter. The percent contained is it's certainly in part a judgmental or a subjective judgment based on the operations group on a fire, but also factored in the real hard data of just how much work has been done. It reflects a level of certainty among the operations group that the fire is extremely unlikely to either slop over, roll out, or rekindle, or move in that area of the fire. So it's not uncommon that we'll see good progress around a fire for a couple of days. The lack of acreage rate increase drops dramatically, but then we're still reporting 18% another day. Then it might go to 25 or 30%, and it's several days behind that reduced rate. That's because we're double checking, making sure nothing is smoldering. If it's steep, rugged country, nothing's going to roll out. So the percent containment is a way for us to articulate a high probability that there is no longer going to be a threat on that piece of line. And we actually, if you may recall on the maps, and sometimes on television news, they love to get a picture of our maps, and there's red lines, red hashed lines that show uncontained fire edge. They show the black line, and that tends to show that percentage. And that's how we'll indicate it.
Okay.
So hope that made sense.
Yeah, we got that. We've got the map from the Cellar Fire off the INSA website. So Brian's been putting that up during the show. So it does actually show the black line and then the red checker line there too.
Yep.
All right. We'll take our next break.
Okay.
All right, and we'll come back. We've got at least one more thing to talk about, maybe two. Prescott National Forest Fire Staff Officer Pete Gordon in studio today. Stick around. Countywide back in just a couple minutes.
Breakthrough Medicine's Dr. Shada Sina offers comprehensive hormone testing and customized hormone therapy with a focus on lifestyle medicine, weight loss, allergy drops, brain and digestive health, seasonal detox, and nutrition. Dr. Sina is a referral physician for Suzanne Summers, specializing in bioidentical hormones for men and women. Breakthrough Medicine is located in Cottonwood's Hot Yoga Plaza. Call for a 15-minute complimentary new patient consultation, 928-649-0269, or visit online at breakthrough-medicine.com.
Northern Arizona Mortgage Corporation is your local choice for personalized home loans, and they've been doing it since 1986. They help home buyers obtain FHA, VA, USDA guaranteed rural housing, and conventional loans. From start to finish, they offer a safe in-person application process with licensed loan originators. Contact Shelley White Collier at northernArizonaMortgage.com or call 634-4251. Visit their office, located at 707 East Mingus, Suite 601, Cottonwood.
Paul Stanley here with Stanley Steel Structures. We offer shade structures that provide style, value, and performance. Our Equinox louvered roof opens and closes to give you the ultimate patio experience. We also offer Alumawood shade covers that looks like wood but lasts like steel and never needs painting or maintenance. Visit us at StanleySteelStructures.com. Contact us today and be covered tomorrow. Stanley Steel Structures. Let us add some space to your place.
Did you know parking over tall, dry grass can spark a wildfire?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation.
America, let's do lunch.
Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
Welcome back to Countywide. We've got just a few minutes left of the program. We do have some prescribed burning that's going to be launching up if the weather allows for it.
Correct. Yeah, so most immediately on the horizon, this is the perfect time of the year for us to introduce fire back into the grasslands, the Agua Fria grasslands, specifically east of I-17, south of the Verde Valley here, kind of in the Dugas area. We started doing a little burning early summer where conditions were good, but ideally, when we get the onset of the monsoons, either right ahead of or right behind the initial rain, the grass species there, specifically Tobosa grass, is a species that is native and does really well, responds really well to fire disturbance in the rainy season. And again, that's kind of the natural ecology. So we've got a few thousand acres on the docket. We may start as early as this weekend, east of I-17. And then, of course, as we get into the fall, we'll be looking at good conditions. So we hope for good conditions again, maybe in the pine type, a little higher elevation around the Prescott area and up on Mingus Mountain.
Okay. All right. Is there a lot left to do? There's always a lot left to do.
Yeah, we've got to make up about 150 years of fire suppression. We got a lot of work to do.
Cellar Fire, any predictions on when that's going to be 100% contained? We're getting there, aren't we?
We are.
And now we know what containment means a little bit better. It's probably just around the corner for us.
Yep. And I would say, again, it's going to be really hard to tell. And this won't be up to me necessarily. We're going to rely on that incident commander that takes over today, our local incident commander. But I would say it's going to ramp up rapidly now, especially if it starts getting moisture. But certainly these high humidities and the fact that the perimeter is pretty well secure, I think we'll see the percent containment ramp up to the point where we'll be able to call it controlled in a week or two, and then eventually we'll call it out.
Has it been rained on?
It did. I heard yesterday one of our lookout towers reported a fairly significant cell over the fire. Now, how far-reaching, I don't know, but from the lookout's advantage, it definitely got rain yesterday.
Okay. I know the museum fire, that got rained on. I think it was Tuesday. Yeah. Tuesday, a cell came over the top of that thing. You could see the fire and smoke coming off of it, and somebody had a nice video of it, and that cell went right over the top of it, and when it was done, it was like almost to put the whole dang fire out, which was really great. We got one more minute. You're retiring.
I am.
In case you're not back again this year, you're retiring.
I plan to retire, yep.
End of the year.
End of this calendar year.
And then what are you going to do with yourself?
I'm going to relax a little bit. It's been 30 years of a great career, but in the fire business, it's been a busy 30 years. So I think I'll relax first, But I've got a lot of outdoor activities I want to do. I'm going to do a little traveling. My wife and I both are going to retire together from the Forest. She's also Forest Service.
Your kids are still in school?
I have one left in school, a senior in high school. The other one is a Forest Service firefighter.
Going in as a senior this year?
Yes.
So, okay, you got one more year left of that. And I know you're big at baseball and stuff like
baseball,
that. Your kids
so,
are big in baseball too.
I'll retire just in time to catch the entire varsity season and not worry about missing a meeting.
Wow, so, that'll be nice, huh? Yeah.
Great.
So, when you travel, where's the first place you want to go?
Oh,
come on now.
Well,
I'd have that locked in already. I think I'd have the tickets already too.
We actually have a list going of places we'd like to go from the northeast to the southeast of the United States, and up to the northwest and northwest. I certainly have somewhat joked that I have a plan to go visit all the places I visited in the smoke wearing Nomex clothing. I'd like to now go back in shorts and flip-flops.
Okay, then you get those after pictures for us,
Yes.
huh? All right, Pete Gordon, thank you so much for coming in again today.
My pleasure.
That is today's Countywide. Thank you so much as always for watching and listening, and we'll talk to you again next time.